America's sweetheart. That's how most people think of Blake Lively, a vision of elegance, grace, and red carpet perfection. For over a decade, she's been a style icon, a leading lady, a devoted wife and mother. She built a career that seemed untouched by scandal, a rarity in an industry defined by headlines. But that image, so carefully crafted, is now being tested in the harshest way possible, inside a federal courtroom. In the summer of 2025, news broke that Lively had filed a civil rights lawsuit against actor and director Justin Baldoni, alleging sexual harassment and professional retaliation during the production of It Ends With Us. The case wasn't just explosive, it was deeply personal. Even more startling were her accusations that Baldoni's team orchestrated a covert smear campaign against her, hiring social media operatives to tarnish her name. And in the center of this new controversy? Not a scandal from her past or a paparazzi moment gone wrong, but a deposition. A single day in court that's become a battleground for control, image, and truth. This wasn't just a typical legal proceeding. Her deposition was postponed, rescheduled, and became the subject of intense negotiation. Lively wanted to limit it to one 7-hour session, citing concerns over privacy, media exposure, and intimidation tactics. Her team argued she was being set up for a spectacle. Baldoni's side fired back, accusing her of using her fame as a shield, not a sword. Then came the bombshell. A judge dismissed her claims against PR expert Jed Wallace, an alleged digital hitman, citing jurisdictional issues. The setback was procedural, not a declaration of innocence, but it was still a public blow. For the first time, the untouchable Blake Lively was bleeding in the court of public opinion. What does it mean when a woman revered for her poise is suddenly painted as difficult, diva, or worse? The courtroom isn't just challenging her claims, it's chipping away at her image. But how did she get here? To understand the full weight of this legal saga, we need to look at where Blake Lively's journey began and how she built the image now under siege. In Hollywood, longevity is hard. Clean reputations? Nearly impossible. Yet for years, Blake Lively pulled off something remarkable. She was famous without being infamous. While others fell into scandals or messy breakups, Blake glided across magazine covers, film sets, and award shows as the embodiment of effortless charm and grace. Her breakthrough came in 2007 with Gossip Girl, a teen drama that catapulted her into pop culture royalty. As Serena van der Woodsen, she captured the attention of an entire generation, sophisticated, magnetic, and mysterious. But off-screen, Lively was already working on something bigger than acting, a brand. One rooted in elegance, poise, and a kind of old Hollywood glamour that seemed untouched by chaos. She avoided the usual Hollywood party circuit. Her dating life, while public, was never messy. After marrying Ryan Reynolds in 2012, the two became tabloid darlings not for drama, but for their dry humor and photogenic family life. Lively's Instagram feed? Meticulously curated, full of sarcasm and style, giving fans a glimpse without ever getting too close. More than an actress, she became a fashion icon and lifestyle muse. Brands lined up to work with her. She launched ventures in clean beauty. She rarely gave interviews, but when she did, she was articulate, quick-witted, and disarmingly relatable. In an industry addicted to oversharing, Blake Lively mastered restraint. This wasn't accidental. Lively has always been intensely aware of how she's perceived. She's spoken in past interviews about avoiding publicists so she could control her own narrative. She managed her press strategically, cultivated exclusivity, and protected her private life with precision. While others chased the spotlight, she learned how to bend it in her favor. And it worked for a long time. She was the rare celebrity that parents admired, fashion critics praised, and fans felt they knew without ever really knowing. She was the beautiful girl next door, but on a global scale. Which is exactly why this lawsuit, and the image war it has triggered, feels so jarring. The idea that Blake Lively could be involved in a dispute this bitter, this complex, and this deeply political feels like watching a glass castle crack in real time. Because when you build a career on control, the moment things start to spiral, every crack becomes a headline. It's not just the sexual harassment allegations. It's the accusations of digital warfare, legal maneuvering, and media manipulation. It's the question no one thought they'd ask. Is Blake Lively just another Hollywood player with secrets to keep and power to protect? Or, more unsettling, is she a woman fighting not just for justice, but to hold on to a public identity that was never built to withstand this kind of fire? And while many were stunned by the lawsuit, for those who've watched Lively closely over the years, this moment also revealed something familiar: her fierce commitment to control. Whether it's over her image, her career, or now, her deposition. It Ends With Us was supposed to be Blake Lively's next major moment. A high-stakes book adaptation, the project promised emotional depth, a powerful message, and a fresh turn for Lively as both a serious actress and a cultural figure willing to explore difficult topics: domestic abuse, trauma, resilience. The irony is hard to miss. The movie about a woman finding the strength to stand up became the backdrop for a real-life story of a woman doing just that. The production, led by Baldoni, best known for Jane the Virgin and his reputation as a feminist ally in Hollywood, was hyped for its emotional depth. Fans of the book were thrilled. Critics were intrigued. But behind the scenes, things were unraveling. According to Blake Lively's civil complaint, what began as creative tension soon turned toxic. She alleges that Baldoni crossed lines repeatedly, creating a hostile work environment that veered into personal violations and gender-based disrespect. While exact details of the harassment remain sealed, the language in her complaint is damning, pointing to comments and behaviors that Lively says were not only unprofessional, but retaliatory when she pushed back. Her legal team contends that after she voiced concerns, she was treated differently, excluded from promotional planning, cut out of certain decisions, and subtly undermined through off-the-record whispers. It's a common pattern for women who speak up in powerful male-dominated industries: gaslight, isolate, discredit. But this wasn't just any industry figure. This was Blake Lively. And she wasn't willing to let it slide. In a bold legal move, Lively filed a civil rights lawsuit not only against Baldoni, but against his team, accusing them of orchestrating a coordinated effort to silence and discredit her. It marked a turning point. A lawsuit like this is rare in Hollywood, not because misconduct doesn't happen, but because it's usually buried, whispered about, settled in secret. Lively went public. The response was swift and divisive. Some called her brave. Others accused her of trying to control a narrative gone wrong. Social media erupted with debates, gossip, and wild theories. How could this happen on a set that was supposed to tell a story of female empowerment? Was it all a publicity stunt? Was there more to the story? Baldoni's camp fired back, denying all allegations and painting the lawsuit as baseless and vindictive. His lawyers claimed that Lively's version of events was one-sided and sensationalized for public consumption. At one point, a statement from Baldoni's team implied that the actress was trying to use her celebrity status to weaponize public sympathy and interfere with a fair process. But in a digital world, public perception matters. And here, Blake's story started to shift from that of an actress making a comeback to a woman fighting to be heard in a system designed to shut her down. Court documents suggest a layered web of legal chess moves. Lively wasn't just filing on emotional grounds, she was strategic. Her legal team, led by Michael Gottlieb, pushed for specific procedural boundaries, deposition limitations, and protective measures to control how the case unfolded publicly. The public didn't know all the details yet. But one thing was clear: this wasn't just about a bad work experience. Lively was positioning herself as someone who believed she was targeted actively and deliberately for speaking up. And that belief would lead to even more explosive claims that a campaign had been launched against her. That her reputation wasn't merely suffering from rumor, but from a digital war orchestrated behind the scenes. One that involved not just lawyers and agents, but a man whose name had never appeared next to hers until now: Jed Wallace. Not all wars are fought in public. Some are waged in algorithms, timelines, and posts that feel organic, but are anything but. Blake Lively claims she became the target of a reputation war. And at the center of that battlefield? A name most viewers have never heard: Jed Wallace. In her civil rights complaint, Lively describes Wallace as a hired gun, a PR strategist with a knack for digital disinformation. Not the kind of campaigns you'd see in glossy magazines or press releases, but shadow tactics that operate beneath the surface. Memes, viral videos, whisper accounts on Reddit and TikTok. Things that feel grassroots, but are actually part of a calculated attack. According to Lively, Wallace wasn't just hired to clean up Baldoni's image, he was paid to destroy hers. The complaint accuses Wallace of engaging in untraceable operations designed to seed and manipulate content that painted Lively as unstable, egotistical, and manipulative. Bots spread negativity under trending hashtags. Influencers, some allegedly paid and others simply baited, joined the conversation. Soon, Blake Lively Toxic Diva wasn't just a phrase, it was a trending identity. The chilling part? There's no direct link to prove it all. That's the genius and danger of this kind of campaign. It's digital erosion. Slow, viral, and deniable. Wallace, through his legal team, has strongly denied all claims. He responded by filing a defamation suit against Lively earlier this year, calling the allegations baseless and defamatory. He claims his firm, Street Relations, was never involved in any illicit online activity and that Lively's complaint was a desperate PR maneuver. The judge in Lively's case dismissed the claims against Wallace, not because they lacked merit, but because of jurisdictional technicalities. Wallace operates out of Texas, while the case was filed in New York. The judge ruled that without clear links to New York-based actions, Wallace couldn't be compelled to defend himself there. But Lively's team was quick to clarify this wasn't a win for Wallace, and it didn't mean her accusations were false. It simply meant the case had to be refiled elsewhere. This decision has major implications. If Lively chooses to refile, Wallace could once again face scrutiny, this time in Texas. And if her team brings stronger evidence of his alleged social sabotage, it could set a new precedent for how digital harassment is addressed in civil court. So why is this important? Because if what Lively claims is true, it signals a terrifying evolution in celebrity warfare. No longer are smear campaigns confined to tabloids. In this new era, image assassins hide behind screens armed with hashtags, bots, and burner accounts. The deeper question is, how does someone fight back against something they can't fully prove? For Lively, the answer was to draw boundaries. Fight for limits. And that brings us to her deposition, an event that was supposed to be procedural, but instead turned into a media spectacle in the making. In the world of high-stakes litigation, a deposition is supposed to be just another step. A quiet, often tedious process that takes place behind closed doors. But when you're Blake Lively, nothing is ever truly private. What should have been a standard legal formality has exploded into a full-blown showdown. Cameras may not be allowed in the room, but make no mistake, this deposition is already a performance. Lively's legal team requested something simple: limit her deposition to a single session, no longer than 7 hours, as outlined under federal rules. But that wasn't all. They also wanted the right to choose the location, away from public streets, paparazzi, and any potential media ambush. Her lawyers even asked for a full list of attendees from Baldoni's side, arguing it was essential to avoid surprises. To an outsider, these conditions might seem excessive. But according to Lively's team, they were necessary. Why? Because they believed the other side wasn't just preparing for legal combat, they were staging a media spectacle. The initial proposal from Baldoni's legal team was to hold the deposition at Meister Selig and Fine, a sleek Park Avenue office known for its prestige, but also its visibility. Lively's lawyers bristled at the idea. They filed a motion objecting to the location, citing serious concerns that paparazzi or even influencers would be tipped off to her whereabouts. The building, they claimed, would act less like a law office and more like a red carpet backdrop. And then things got even stranger. In a moment that was either a joke in very poor taste or a PR stunt masquerading as sarcasm, Baldoni's lawyer Brian Friedman told TMZ that Blake's deposition should be live-streamed from Madison Square Garden, complete with ticket sales and proceeds going to domestic violence survivors. Lively's team was stunned. Friedman's remark may have been flippant, but it wasn't forgotten. Her team saw it as proof that the opposition couldn't be trusted to maintain the confidentiality and integrity of the process. When a federal judge reviewed both sides, he ruled in Lively's favor. The deposition would not take place at the Park Avenue location. Instead, it would be held at a confidential site of her choosing. Additionally, Baldoni's legal team was ordered to disclose exactly who would be present at the proceeding, a rare but telling win for the plaintiff. But that ruling didn't calm the storm. It only stirred up more speculation. Was Lively leveraging her fame to manipulate the courtroom? Or was she defending herself from a carefully orchestrated campaign to publicly humiliate her? Both sides had ammunition. Baldoni's camp argued that Blake's request to avoid public venues was less about privacy and more about controlling the process. They claimed she was trying to set the terms, dictate the pace, and protect her image, an image that's increasingly become the subject of public debate. Lively's attorneys, on the other hand, painted a very different picture, one of a woman trying to navigate an adversarial system where the spotlight is both a weapon and a liability. In their view, this wasn't about avoiding questions. It was about protecting dignity in a world where headlines are written faster than court transcripts. The deposition itself is critical. It's the moment both sides can dig deep, asking hard questions, challenging timelines, probing motives. It's also where reputations can be damaged without ever stepping into a courtroom. A single off-the-cuff answer, a poorly phrased response, those moments can ripple out into media narratives that eclipse the actual legal issues. And Lively knows this. She's spent her life managing image and controlling messaging. Her fear isn't irrational, it's strategic. She's seen how the media spins stories and how online armies, fueled by PR leaks or planted narratives, can turn any public figure into a target. This is where contrast becomes unavoidable. On one hand, Lively is a woman asserting her boundaries in a hostile, male-dominated legal battle. On the other, she's a celebrity asking for special treatment, quiet rooms, privacy, restricted access. The line between protection and privilege gets murky fast. Even Judge Louis Lyman seemed to recognize the stakes. His decision to grant Lively's requests wasn't framed as a reward, it was a safeguard. He agreed the conditions were fair given the unusual media interest surrounding the case. That subtle phrasing said it all. This isn't a normal deposition, because this isn't a normal case. And outside the courthouse, the world kept watching. Articles dissected every legal motion. Tweets speculated about what would be said behind those closed doors. Opinion columns debated whether Lively was being heroic or hypocritical. Then there's the deeper, unspoken fear. If Lively, with her power, platform, and resources, can't control how she's portrayed during a legal fight, what chance does anyone else have? For Justin Baldoni, the deposition could be a critical opportunity to cast doubt on Lively's narrative, to suggest inconsistencies, to frame her story as exaggerated or performative. And for Lively, it's a moment to assert her truth, but only if the terms are right. What's happening here isn't just about testimony. It's about perception. It's about public memory. And it's about who gets to walk out of the room with their version of reality intact. And so we're left with a paradox. The more Blake Lively fights for privacy, the more public the spectacle becomes. Every request for protection turns into a new headline. Every boundary she sets becomes another battle. From the outside, Blake Lively's legal moves might look like textbook celebrity PR, limit exposure, control optics, stay ahead of the headlines. But scratch beneath the surface, and you'll find a carefully curated strategy, one not just built on legal rights, but shaped by the immense power and burden of fame. Let's be real. When you're famous, the courtroom doesn't operate like it does for the average person. Every motion, every filing, every leaked snippet becomes a subplot in a broader media narrative. For Lively, this isn't just about justice, it's about protecting her identity, her image, and her future. Her legal team understands that optics can be as impactful as rulings. So they've played the game like seasoned pros. They petitioned for her deposition to be held privately, for attendance to be disclosed, for the duration to be limited not just for comfort, but to manage how the story is told. They're shaping Lively's role as not just a plaintiff, but as a woman pushing back against a machine built to silence. Meanwhile, Baldoni's team views these maneuvers as manipulation. To them, it's a celebrity shielding herself behind privilege, dodging uncomfortable truths and public accountability. And in some ways, their criticism sticks. This battle isn't playing out in a vacuum, it's playing out under a spotlight. This isn't just a lawsuit. It's a high-stakes PR war where every move doubles as a headline. And Blake? She's not just responding, she's directing the narrative. As we shift to the next chapter, we'll step away from strategy and into the alleged source of the conflict, The set of It Ends With Us. What happened there, and how did it spiral into one of the most talked about legal feuds of the year? Before lawyers got involved, before depositions and defamation lawsuits, there was just a movie set. It Ends With Us, a highly anticipated adaptation starring and produced by Blake Lively, was meant to be a career-defining project for both her and director Justin Baldoni. But according to Lively, that set turned into something far more sinister. In her civil complaint, Lively alleges that the set was toxic and unprofessional, dominated by a boys' club energy that marginalized her voice. She claims that her boundaries were ignored, her concerns brushed off, and that Baldoni fostered an environment where power dynamics were exploited under the guise of creative collaboration. Though much of the court record remains sealed, insiders have whispered about invasive direction, suggestive remarks, and subtle pressures that crossed lines. Baldoni, however, tells a different story. His team describes the environment as intense, but typical for a passion project with tight deadlines. They allege that it was Lively who became increasingly difficult, assertive to the point of controlling, micromanaging production details, and clashing with crew members. For Baldoni, her lawsuit is retaliation, a PR weapon unleashed after creative tensions boiled over. This battle of narratives forms the heart of the case. Is Lively a woman standing up against industry misconduct? Or is she reshaping the story to protect her image after a failed production partnership? Regardless of which version is closer to the truth, the fallout has been seismic. What started as creative friction has morphed into a full-blown legal war, threatening reputations on both sides. Fans once eager for a romantic drama are now watching a real-life courtroom saga. Next, we'll examine the shadow players behind the scenes, agents, publicists, and hired guns who may have turned this private conflict into a very public fight. In most Hollywood dramas, there's always someone behind the curtain, pulling strings, shaping outcomes, cleaning up messes. In this real-life drama, that figure is Jed Wallace. Blake Lively's lawsuit paints Wallace as more than just a publicist. She calls him a digital, hired gun, allegedly tasked with executing a coordinated smear campaign to destroy her credibility. Wallace, according to the complaint, was brought in by Baldoni's team to do what he's known for: quietly weaponize social media. The allegation? That he seeded damaging narratives about Lively across fan forums, gossip accounts, and influencer feeds, making it nearly impossible to trace the source, but easy to amplify the damage. Wallace denies everything and has since filed a defamation lawsuit against Lively, claiming her accusations are baseless and damaging to his reputation. He says he's never engaged in covert psychological warfare, as Lively's complaint implied. What makes this moment so crucial is what it reveals about the machinery behind modern celebrity scandals. Today's PR wars aren't just fought in the press, they're fought on Reddit threads, TikTok comments, and anonymous tips to T pages. Lively's legal team argues that this isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a new industry tactic. But Wallace's legal pushback suggests a line has been crossed. If Lively can't prove intent or traceable actions, her claim may collapse under legal scrutiny. As her case against Wallace was tossed out for jurisdictional reasons, not merit, it leaves open the possibility of refiling elsewhere. For now, though, one thing is clear: this battle isn't just about who said what. It's about who controls the story. Since day one, this case hasn't just lived in the courtroom, it's lived in headlines, hashtags, and 24/7 media cycles. From TMZ scoops to insider leaks, every new detail in Blake Lively's lawsuit has been dissected, exaggerated, and reinterpreted through the lens of public opinion. But who's behind the media frenzy? Lively's team accuses Baldoni's camp of orchestrating media ambushes, intentionally leaking deposition details, manipulating paparazzi access, and even threatening to live stream her deposition. To them, this isn't just about trial by jury, it's about trial by public perception. They argue that these tactics were designed to wear her down emotionally and reputationally before a single judge even weighed in. Baldoni's team has fired back with claims that Lively herself has been feeding the press, painting him as the villain while playing the victim. They say her side has weaponized sympathy, planting narratives that distract from the legal merits. Caught in the middle? The public and the press. The result is a murky, distorted version of the truth. The line between fact and spin has become nearly impossible to distinguish. And this matters. In high-profile cases like this, media becomes both weapon and shield. It shapes juries, intimidates witnesses, and alters the very trajectory of a legal battle. The court of public opinion doesn't wait for rulings, it delivers its verdict in real time, based on likes, shares, and viral moments. So, who's winning the media war? That's still unclear. But what's undeniable is that this case, however it ends, has already become a blueprint for how legal conflicts in the digital age can be manipulated, monetized, and turned into entertainment. For all the spectacle, it's still the court's decisions that shape the real-world stakes. And recently, Judge Louis Lyman made several rulings that delivered both clarity and complications for Blake Lively's case. First came a major blow. The judge dismissed her claims against Jed Wallace, citing lack of jurisdiction. Notably, he didn't say her claims were meritless, only that the court couldn't try them in New York. That detail is critical. Lively's team quickly clarified that they may refile in another jurisdiction, keeping the door open. Then, in a win for Lively, the judge allowed her to dictate the location of her deposition, emphasizing privacy and security concerns. He also ordered Baldoni's team to disclose a list of attendees and provide logistical support to Lively's legal team. It was a nod to the idea that celebrity status doesn't erase the need for fairness and protection, especially in emotionally charged cases. But these rulings also reflected how tightly this case is walking the line between standard legal process and public theater. Baldoni's lawyers criticized the venue change as inconvenient and accused Lively of using her fame to gain special treatment. The court, so far, has responded with cautious middle ground, balancing procedural fairness with the unique realities of celebrity litigation. What's clear is this: neither side has won outright. Instead, the judge's rulings reveal a chessboard in motion, where each move is strategic and every piece, legal, emotional, and reputational, matters.